Okay. Would you like me to start again, or? Okay, so I got into digital marketing after I left uni because I wanted to have a career, even though I use that term very, very loosely, which allowed me to have a job where I wasn't limited to a particular physical location. At the time, I had, well, I still have family in Norway, and my dad passed away of cancer at the end of my final degree. And I realized I didn't want to be in a situation where I had to be in a particular place in case I was needed elsewhere. So I decided I wanted to focus on online marketing. I could have gone into venture capital, but I thought, nah, it's, much rather have a job that might earn me a little bit less, but give me more of a life and give me more choice in how I live my life. So my alternative at the time was to maybe go to the Gold Coast and work on venture capital deals, and that wasn't exactly something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I started creating a few online companies. At the time, I went to all the seminars I could get around here in Melbourne on how to start a membership website, how to start ebook websites, which are now, to be honest, I'm embarrassed about because it was given the fact that at the time I had a degree in business administration, entrepreneurship, and accounting. I should have been able to look through all that BS, but I was blue and naive. So I wasted a few years on that. And then I realized that there was an opportunity to help business owners that were stuck in generating leads. And I went into conversion optimization, which is basically how to tweak and optimize the website to generate more leads. And from that on, the company evolved, and I realized, I think it was a year ago, that I was really on the wrong path, because what I should have focused on, instead of focusing on doing one-off projects with clients, I should have been smart enough to focus on what can I do to get more ongoing revenue from each client. And that got me into looking at LinkedIn, because I generally tend to dislike most of the social media that I see out there, with the exception of Quora, which I like because it's straight to the point and you learn stuff, and LinkedIn because it's just straight business. You don't have the fluffy cats of Facebook. There's none of that crap that always annoys me. And I really like the LinkedIn system, but I'm always the type of person who's into growth hacking. Like there's another side avenue. I've done a bit of teaching here in Melbourne. I've been teaching digital marketing, Google AdWords, Google Analytics, but in particular in particular growth hacking. So I was asked through a friend of mine to do a presentation on growth hacking here at General Assembly, and that ended up being like a 3-year gig where I was basically teaching other entrepreneurs, BDMs, business development managers, salespeople, how to grow. And then I was looking for a way to use LinkedIn more effectively, because a common challenge that I have on LinkedIn is I don't have the tenacity and discipline to do something manual repeatedly. And then I did a search looking for an automating software, and I found LinkedIn Helper. And at the time, I thought, well, this looks like an interesting American company. I have no idea you guys were in Perth.
Link
So,
Prospect.
yeah, Link Prospect. Yeah, sorry. All these brands just go into my head. So, what did I say? Did I say LinkedIn Helper? Or?
Yeah, you did say LinkedIn Helper.
Okay, sorry.
And
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. We've looked at them too, and they basically a browser-based plugin, which is one of the biggest.
Yeah. I was looking at all these different options, and what attracted me with Linked Prospect, it was the only one that was directly that was offline in a way. I mean, I didn't need to have, like you mentioned, I didn't need to have a browser open and have it open all the time. So because that was a system that I could actually systemize and optimize, I decided, okay, that was something that I wanted to try out. And then I went, after I first got the hand of that software and I tested it out a little bit, I thought to myself, I have a friend of mine who runs a career service here in Melbourne. Let me see if this might be a solution that he would be interested in. So I went in, being completely honest, looking, this is what Link Prospect allows you to do, I think I'll be able to offer similar to the management solution that you are offering, because at the time you had 3 different packages: the $49, the $99, which for some reason you didn't have listed on the homepage, and the fully managed solution. Now, at the time, I was a little bit clueless as to what the managed solution actually entailed. But I presumed, for just looking at the user interface, that it entailed using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, tweaking the copy. So I took the copy from one of your blog articles, which were 2 templates: the connection message and the follow-up message, and I just tweaked it for that particular client. And at the time, I was very lucky because he was running a career agency which was targeted towards high-end executives. So basically helping high-end executives getting job opportunities by basically helping them becoming strategic. And I just set that up for him in the beginning of November. And at the time, I had no experience with the software. And I was lucky in the sense that he managed to get results extremely quickly, because he had the right offer to an audience that was really, really interested in it. And putting out a message was very easy, because they thought that he was some sort of recruiter that would be helping them generating income, which to a certain extent is true. So in the first month, going into Christmas, he had like on average 1 or 2 leads coming in every day.
Oh, wow.
And for me, that being the very, very first campaign, that was a massive win. Also at the time, I was working with a guy, Daryl Carton, who was basically an IT consultant, helping government agencies make smarter decisions about IT implementation. So basically multi-million, billion-dollar projects. And he wrote all these really funny articles about how the Australian government had completely stuffed up the NBN, completely stuffed on the Myki implementation here in Victoria, which is the system for using public transport, to the point of where, in the case of Myki, for instance, it would have been cheaper to give everyone in Melbourne free public transport than implementing the Myki system.
What?
So, yeah, so it's completely crazy. If you have a chance, look up this YouTube channel called Honest Government Ads. It's made by someone here in Melbourne. It's just fantastic. Goes into a lot of the stupidity about Australian politics. Anyway, for me, those 2 projects were fun because, on the one hand, there was good ethical projects to be involved in. The guy was really interested in helping people out. And the other one, the career service, was really a no-brainer, because it was a service that allowed this guy, who was very interested in helping high-end executives get ahead in life, be more strategic in their way of getting work, which for me was tremendously interesting, and still is, because you have all these people that have literally $500,000 salaries, and you look at them as, like, are these extremely intelligent, strategic people, when in reality they might be smart. But as my client said last time I met with him, which I think was last week, he said that these people are not people that have ended up in a strategic position out of clever thinking. They basically stumbled forward. Yeah, cool. I know this is a little bit on the side, but I find this interesting both from a marketing perspective and what these guys are actually doing. So after 1 month, he had $18,000 worth of sales, basically one client, because he's selling packages that are in the price range of between 13 and 30,000. So somewhere in between that's where he ends up getting sales. And then in the beginning of February, he asked me to get 2 of his consultants on board. So my monthly retainer went up from 1,000 to 3,000. And I had a chat with them last week, as I said, and they were saying they weren't entirely sure if it was working or not. It was very early days. They pointed out that, on the bright side, the caliber of people they had coming in through the doors was extremely high. Like, we're talking about high C-level executives that were meeting at their offices here in Melbourne. On the downside, the quality of the leads that they actually had, in terms of how interested they were in buying the product, were much lower than if they would use them through Google. So that's a mix that I'm still working on. How can I help these guys to have a higher conversion rate? But towards the end of the meeting, after I basically taught them a little bit about how to use the LinkedIn better and proven to them that their SSI score, the social selling index, had gone up from between 40 to 50 per consultant to up to 60 to 70. I asked them, so how many sales have you got? And they said, well, we had 2 sales. One was $13,000 and the other one was $30,000. So all up, we're looking at $61,000 worth of sales. And that might sound,
that's funny.
that might sound, yeah. But I guess what I have to keep in mind with every person that I deal with is it's very much a person-to-person business. So they were dealing with the high-end executives. When they came in through the door, they needed to speak with someone who understood their language, and their sales process was entirely different than if you're trying to sell something worth $1,000. Like, you're dealing with people that are they're making, usually their salaries are high 6 figures, or we're talking about 2, 3, 400,000 going up, and the challenges that these guys have in converting them are pretty unique. On the one end, they have little to no strategic understanding of how to sell themselves. On the other end, if you try to sell them something worth $2,000 to $3,000 a month, they're like, "Oh, I can't afford that." I'm like, "How can you not afford that when you're selling $500,000?" Well, it's because they're dumb about their money, much like the stereotype of doctors and dentists. So they might have their money down into silly cars and houses and mistresses and whatever else things you need to pay off. So that was that client. The other one, Daryl Carlton, I worked with him for 2 months. He was very, very happy towards the end of it, towards the point he basically asked me to stop the campaign because he couldn't handle the volume. He was working, he's still working probably for Swinburne University here, and I sent him on average, I think it was two leads every day. And the challenge there was how to tweak the campaign. And one of the key lessons that I learned from him is that in the beginning of the campaign, I can go with whatever search parameter they give me, the client gives me, which I usually send out to them in the survey, ask them, what do you think is your ideal audience? But then what I realized when I'm reading through the replies of each client in their LinkedIn accounts is that I'm actually picking up which audience is the best. So I actually picked up that in the beginning, a general broader search was good within, I think it was government administration I started with. And he thought that government administration was where he had the biggest opportunity. I said to him, well, there might be an opportunity in larger companies, because if you're dealing with government, things are going just unbelievably slow.
Yeah.
You know, to give you and I know this is a little bit on the side, but I find this interesting. Through General Assembly, I was once asked to do a presentation about innovation at an event that was, I think, was either run by the Australian government or have like a high-ranking minister of small business or whatever in Australia. It took those guys 6 months to get that event together, and to just get the guy, whoever was the high ministry, available to speak again 6 months ahead time. While we working for General Assembly, we could have gotten this up in 2 weeks, and it was an event about innovation. But okay, anyway,
it's crazy.
So that anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So going back to the experience with Daryl Carlton, we realized that it would be an opportunity to focus on procurement professionals, which is a certain type of role inside either a larger company or a government agency, and also use the keyword technology transformation. Now, a challenge with that again is, how do you separate the leads that come in, the people that are interested, that are that are real genuine clients? Because at times you had a lot of people that might contact you saying that, you know, might be interested in getting work and thinking that Daryl was someone who could provide them work. So one thing that I've started doing now with my later campaigns is to put in negative keywords using Boolean search parameters. So I first used the general keyword and then negative, not consultant, not blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So that's on the positive side. Now on the negative side, the things that haven't worked, I had one client that left after 2 weeks because I couldn't get any leads for her. She's in the personal development space. I pretty much learned.
2 weeks is really short though too, right? Like that's a very, very short amount of time. Like 6 weeks, I tell people at least 6 weeks to know if you know, if there's a campaign or not, if how it's going. It's hilarious. It's
Yeah,
like
well,
I tried AdWords for 2 weeks and it didn't work. Well, that's obvious that it's not going to work.
well, to a certain extent, I actually understood the client, because what is actually happening is, if you're doing it over a 2 week cycle, you're putting together a connection message, and you're getting data on that within a 2 week time frame, and you're sending up a follow-up message within 24 hours from the first message. If you look at it over a 2 week period, she was able to see, and I provided her data through a spreadsheet that I used for the Google Docs. She was able to see how many of them were positive and negative, and she got absolutely nothing, and many of them were negative. And I thought to myself, initially I thought like you, well, 2 weeks, it doesn't give you any particular type of sense of data. But then I thought she was actually right, because when I compare that to some of the challenges I had with other clients that are in the personal development space, it's identical. I have someone I'm working with at the moment I'm really struggling with, who's also what you call performance coach or leadership coach. And the challenge that you have in those industries is that if you try to sell your service, you literally sound identical to the next guy. I ask these people every time, what makes you different? And they say, oh, I'm more qualified. Well, how would I know that you're more qualified? How do I know the difference in your credentials? So what I've ended up doing is I tested up different strategies. So I went from doing a direct pitch, this is what I'm offering, to this is what I'm offering in general as a person, to offering a particular offer, to doing an indirect thing where I'm just saying, I'm working on this offer. Would you be interested in giving me some feedback what you think might work and might not work?
I'm doing research. Yeah,
doing research.
That's brilliant.
See, yeah. So when I'm going for the research route, I'm getting a high positive reply rate, and I tried that out with I forgot his last name. Tim. Tim is the professional development coach, and with him I had a higher reply rate. Like, he was literally down to 20% of positive replies out of the total amount of replies. So I can show the spreadsheet if you want, where I basically calculate as much data as I can based on how people reply. So based on that, I realized that with Tim, getting back to people with I'm doing some research, ended up having a higher reply rate. But what I'm now going to be trying in version 4, I'm going to implement that either today or tomorrow, is instead of going indirect to people that might have a position of execution inside a company, I'm going directly to the owners. And I'm going to say, I'm working on this research on common health problems that business owners might be facing and how that can impact their performance. Would you be interested in being a part of a survey? Now, he's not really going into the performance aspects of his work in that. He's more focusing on the general health problems, and he's going directly to the owners. That came in a way indirectly for me, because I realized that a common problem that I have with many of the campaigns is I'm not specific enough. And I think going directly to the owners makes more sense, because if you get the owner, you can bypass many of the other roles. Like, for instance, I've heard from the woman who canceled after 2 weeks that going to HR managers was a complete waste of time, because even though HR managers might be the type of people who are by role the best to speak with, they are extremely time poor, and there might be some sort of problems with their what's the word I'm looking for, either personality or their I can't really think of it.
Okay, but also even just the medium, right? Like, they get hit up on LinkedIn all the time because people basically want to get jobs at their companies, right? So they get added and they get harassed all the time.
Yeah,
I think so. A lot of it has to do with medium too.
Yeah, so from a medium perspective, that was that's a group I'm trying to bypass. I'm still learning. Another thing that I'm finding frustrating is how extremely little information there is around how to use LinkedIn effectively. I'm reading like 1 or 2 books every week from experts that I'm getting from Kindle, and most of it is stuff that I've already picked up.
Now you should write the book. Now you should write the book. The that people need.
Yeah, I'm actually doing that indirectly because was someone in a Canadian who contacted me from Mexico. He's there at the moment, and he's offering a service on how to write a book in a week.
Yeah, cool.
And what he's basically doing is he's reaching out to experts and saying, "Look, I can do an interview for a couple of hours and turn that into a book."
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, this is interesting. And he said, I'm willing to offer a 20% referral fee. So I started a campaign with him last week where I said, look, I'm not going to charge anything per month. I just want to see where this goes. And in the first couple of days, he had 8 leads.
Yeah, wow.
That was 2 days.
So tell me something quickly. So you basically started in November 2018 from nothing. We're now in March and you have 5-6 clients up and running and happy.
Yep.
Yeah, well. Well, do you use the service yourself to get leads too? Do you use Link Prospect to prospect yourself?
Yeah, I used that initially. I had some technical issues last month, so I went over to one of the other companies doing the same thing, just as a test, because I wasn't entirely sure at the time if the problems you guys were facing was it's just a symptomatic thing or it was an industry-wide thing. Because a concern that I have running in my head is LinkedIn can change whatever they're doing, and what we are doing at the moment can dissipate. Like they can come up with some sort of technology. However, the thing that I'm keeping in the back of my mind as a type of safeguard is we're dealing with a company that is owned by Microsoft. So I'm not expecting any innovation. I'm expecting them to keep on following their typical business model, which is develop something that is okay, release something that is crap, develop something that is okay, basically the release cycle of their operating systems. So I'm still seeing how badly they're executing LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not expecting them to catch on, because what Link Prospect is doing, what you guys are doing so well, and other automating software is doing so well, is that they're tapping into a market that LinkedIn doesn't know how to capitalize on. They literally don't know how to do it, because the LinkedIn advertising is so expensive to deal with, from what I'm hearing from other professionals, that the SME market are not willing to pay for it. So what's LinkedIn's options? Either they can come up with a lower end solution which works from the SME market, which then the corporates will go on straight away, or they can try to stop these automating solutions from actually working to reduce the amount of spam, which I think is what they're doing at the moment, to put in spam in the works. Or option 3, they can ignore it. And I think by probably a combination of a lack of putting full resources and incompetency on their behalf, we're probably seeing more the last option number 3.
Just keep going. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for those insights. I really appreciate it. And I think I'm going to turn this into a blog post and get it up on our blog, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I got much more information I could tell you from things I'm doing at the moment. I guess one last thing that I might want to tell you is I was contacted by a guy last week, Troy Eady, who runs a network here in Melbourne for helping business owners systemize their business. And when I basically presented what I was doing, he was like, excellent, I want you to get started on doing what I'm doing for my company. And he has got another 2-3 consultants. So I'm looking at probably having 10 clients either by the end of this month or next month that I'm working on. So my challenge now, and this is a challenge for your development team, is if I'm going into Link Prospect and I want to add additional accounts, which I really, really want to, it's limited by 10 accounts in the current user interface.
Yeah.
So you guys
just need to add 15. That's easy.
Yeah, I need to have more. Like if it's possible to have it unlimited in some sort of way, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much, Björn.
No worries. If there's anything else I can do to help, please let me know, because I'm working on that LinkedIn book.